Okay, folks, how you doing today? Well, I just wanted to mention the latest scaremongering tactic by the powers that be. So the World Health Organization, the WEF at Davos going on currently, I think. So they've got their fear mongering, they've got their prostitutes, and they've got their gas guzzling jets that have a monstrous carbon footprint, more than me and you would ever make in a year, just in a couple of hours. So there they are, and they're going to preach to us, the loathsome deplorables, how we need to live and to obey their every command. So, and they're trying to do this time around. They know that the world hates them. I think they're finally cluing into this, but they're still buffered by thousands of private security troops. So they're not too scared yet, but they were surprised by our reaction to COVID and that there was so much pushback on their plans to control society through the use of fear, mayhem, death, and destruction, all in the name of a certain utopia that we don't know where it is going to be or what it's going to look like. We only have a few clues, apparently, that we'll own nothing and be super happy about it. Doesn't that sound great? But they don't tell you the other parts, that you're going to be living in slums, you're going to be living in pods, and they do tell you this, you are going to be eating insects. So that's going to be fantastic. I guarantee John Kerry and Klaus Schwab will be eating steaks. Okay, they'll have their own private herds, just like Mark Zuckerberg has. In his little bunker, I guess, now they're building a place for cows so he can have fresh red meat. These people are not going to follow what they preach. They're not going to do that. So there's this new disease called Disease X that flares up every couple of weeks, once a year. Since about 2020, the New York Times did an article on this back in 2020, and it's just kind of a name that the WHO gives to a potential disease that they haven't named yet that could be a pandemic. So anything in the future, so it leaves it wide open. So a bill was also passed or was introduced, okay, back in summer, and it's the Disease X Act of 2023, which is supposed to give more money, to the WHO, who would wants one world government. Okay, this is their dream. It sounds nice, it's not, and wants us to foot the bill for this. So this name is for a disease that hasn't really been discovered yet, but could cause a pandemic. So those are pretty much the only criteria for Disease X. And the WHO chief, Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus, that loser, he will give a talk at Davos titled Preparing for Disease X, in which he will attempt to sell the world on the novel efforts needed to prepare healthcare systems for the multiple challenges ahead. This statement is based on the assumption that Disease X will be far deadlier than COVID. And of course, they've tied this disease to climate change. How convenient. Okay. Now, some of this stuff, yes, it does have basis in some things. But remember, they're tying truth and a lie together. It's a much easier sell than just to tell you, hey, we're just making this shit up so that we can get more money out of you and make you poorer. And we've got to get rid of these middle class people. Got to get rid of them. So climate change. So they're saying things like, as the permafrost melts and environments change, animals move around, and new interactions between humans and animals occur. With increasing and varied human-animal interaction, so increases the threat of new diseases. Okay, so we're also supposed to be afraid of diseases mutating within livestock and then jumping to humans. This has actually been a real issue in the past. So concentrated animal feeding operations have been known to spawn various strains of like swine flu and avian flu. Okay, now these are naturally occurring though. These have occurred because of this close contact and because of what they're being fed to on these corporate farms, which isn't like this grass-fed diet that cattle normally has. So make no mistake though that we have like, the problem is here is this is not going to be something natural. It's going to be exactly what COVID was, but apparently 20 times worse. So it's going to be grown in a lab, created in a lab, and it's going to be gain of function research. And when I say gain of function, as far as my understanding, gain of function is taking a natural virus, something that exists in nature, like animals may have it or whatever, taking it and making it very dangerous, making it 100 times more dangerous than it is in nature. And so making it more resilient. And this is done in a lab by scientists. And this, what you get in the end is not necessarily just a disease. You get a biological weapon that is meant to reduce the population of humanity. Remember, these people that are in charge of this, they are anti-humanitarians. And if you're going to tell me, you're going to come to me and go, and I digress a bit, but I'm just going to say this is very important. If you're going to tell me, well, they said they're doing it because they care. They want to give us a vaccine because they care. If you're still following that line of thought, think about this. If Satan came to you with a needle and said, oh, I promise it's good for you. It's good for you. And even though it was filled with antifreeze, and would you still buy into it? Because this is what they're going to do. And Americans have lived very innocently for a long time. They haven't been subjected to quite as much of the arrows of the world, okay? And I'm not saying all Americans, of course, but we've had a lot of material comforts, a lot more than most places. And I'm not dissing on Americans. I love Americans. I'm just saying, here's the thing. We've got to stop believing this stuff. Satan, of course, is going to come up to you and go, why? And you're going to go, why do you have that gun? And he's like, oh, I'm just holding it, man. I'm not going to do anything. Why are you pointing at my head? Because I love you. I'm only doing it because I love you. We're getting to that point where people are really, really, really buying into this garbage. So please, I implore you, if you think that, please look at the subtext and look at the results. Look at the results of COVID, okay? Please try to look at that. Look past just what's on the surface and what people tell you. Please stop buying into the salesman technique that the government likes to do. We love you. We're going to give you something with a spike protein that's 100 times more resilient that we made in a lab to kill off most of you. But we love you. Okay? So that's what gain of function is. So basically, here's my point. 3 reasons why the next virus could be more deadly. Now remember, vigilance versus alarmism. Vigilance versus alarmism. Vigilance is the price you pay for your liberty. Alarmism is what they want you to feel so that you can't make rational decisions. Okay? Everything's an emergency. So you skip over all the rationale and you go right to being scared. We need to stop that. Okay? The first possibility is that Davos, which is going on this week, of course, have been surprised at the amount of pushback they received regarding the COVID response. Many people, even in blue states, have gotten into the habit of ignoring recommendations. Journalists like Matt Orfalea are making sure that the ridiculous things we were supposed to believe during COVID are not getting memory hold. Yes, there are people being paid to bring this up again, okay? So they're making sure that we remember. While I personally find the amount of peaceful non-compliance inspiring, I also don't expect the folks at Davos to simply let this slide. Remember, they do want absolute control. They're very surprised because their message this year, what is the theme? Rebuilding trust. Can you believe it? These are the least trustworthy people on the face of the earth. And if someone tells you again, if you're triggered into being programmed and you go, but they said they want to rebuild trust. Holy cow. Please question your thinking and do critical thinking. Should I really trust this? Can I really trust this? Please ask yourselves these questions. Of course, somebody who wants to do bad things, a criminal one, is going to tell you. They're not going to tell you that they want to do bad things to you. They're going to tell you that they are here to help you. That's how they get away with the crime. Can you not see it? Oh my gosh. I'm just thinking of a specific person right now who said this to me, and I was like, are you kidding me? Please, you're just swallowing it whole without asking any questions at all. Please detach the hose from CNN, Fox, whoever, mainstream media, and start to use your critical thinking skills. It's okay to use it. It's okay to doubt. Anyway, that's my emotional plea to those out there still being programmed. So as this person says, while I personally find the amount of peaceful non-compliance inspiring, I also don't expect that folks at Davos to simply let this slide. No, they want power massively and they want their money. So they are going to fight back. Even though they're saying rebuilding trust, don't trust them. The British COVID inquiry has been postponed indefinitely for no clear reason. So suddenly there was this inquiry going into COVID. Oh, well, maybe this was false. Maybe it was fake. Maybe we should start going after these people for accountability and calling these companies into accountability. Start to punish these people for what they did to people. But here's the thing. All of a sudden, this has been suspended. It wouldn't surprise me at all if the Davos folks decided to throw something truly miserable our way out of spite. Absolutely agree with this. Most of them should be fine. They've all got their doomsday bunkers, as Daisy recently noted, and as we have seen with Mark Zuckerberg too. We've actually have seen the plans for his doomsday bunker on Kauai. And believe me, he has a place there too. He has a place where he's going to put, he's not going to be eating insects, folks. You will. That's the plan WF has. None of these WF people will be eating insects like they've told you should be doing. They will be eating red meat, chicken, salmon. They will be eating all of those things. They're going to take that away from you. That is their intent. Not to alarm you, just be vigilant and do the best that you can within your sphere. That's what you can do. Okay, start there. Start simple like that. So the second possibility is that Davos believes if disease X makes enough people seriously ill, the population will beg, here's the key, this is what they want. The population will beg for the authoritarian controls Davos so wants to implement, okay? We've pushed back on censorship. We've pushed back on central banking, although that's a tough one. I don't know about that one. We're pushing back on this one world health type of authoritarianism, okay? Pushing back on you will own nothing and be happy. You won't own anything. And that's some leverage too in this life, is owning something. They hate that you own that. They hate that you have autonomy over some of your resources. They don't like that. So they're going to try something like this. It's very extreme. And as people find out more and more and are less believing in what they're saying, they will get more and more draconian in their methods. That's a sign also, take it as a positive, that they are desperate and that they are losing. Okay? So the draconian methods are very scary, but it's also a sign they are losing the battle, which they already are. They already started losing this battle during COVID. Okay? Vigilance is the way to win. Promise. Vigilance is the way to win. So I'm not sure how it will work out. I think it depends on how tightly they can control the flow of information. That's important. If they can convince enough people that disease X emerged naturally, maybe average citizens will trust the experts enough to let them take the reins. Yeah, I am suspect, though. I don't think people will. not this time around. If you've seen any of the statistics, like what is it, 14% of the United States this year went out and got any vaccine jabs at all for flu, whatever. Nobody's buying it anymore. We used to fall, the percentages of people going to get their vaccine shot or their flu shot were much higher in the past before COVID. Now they're way down. And I think, 14% went and got the actual COVID jab this year. I mean, nobody's buying this shit. And so, however, if evidence emerges that disease X comes from a lab, people are going to be furious. Yes. The WEF knows this. It's not a coincidence that their theme, of course, as I said, is rebuilding trust. Ha 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 ha. Good luck. When you try to fuck people over and you try to literally go out there and commit genocide through a lab-created virus, you are not going to get trust back ever. You will never get this from me, that's for sure. And the third possibility would be a desire for general mayhem. They love chaos too, as we can see by what George Soros has done, funding many DAs to go lenient on crime. And thus we have smash and grab. Rapes are up, assaults are up, and homicides are incredibly high in certain areas such as Chicago. So many of us have known since 2008 that our financial system is sick and that a crash is inevitable. George Gammon explains here why he thinks the system will crash in March. He might get something wrong, but he's not the only financial analyst anticipating a collapse fairly soon. Naturally, there will be a public uproar whenever that happens. An exotic disease can provide a major distraction. Okay, now, again, as I've said, I just wanted to point those specifically out, these possibilities. But in the end, and I like that this guy writes this, don't live in fear of disease X, but take care of your health. How do you take care of your health? Being a non-health expert, but a person who does take care of their health very vigilantly. I actually do. I will say other things, I'm lazy, but as far as my health, I do take care of it very much so. I mean, I got a few things to work on, like I'm missing a tooth, but that's from a long time ago, so I just don't want to pay for it. Anyway, so here's the thing. So here's what he says. I don't think it's wise to live in fear of the latest current thing. I do think it's wise to take care of your own health. And I know Daisy's been happy with a wellness company, a business that was created. So there's a little bit of a plug here. Sorry about that. A business that was created in response to the disaster created within the medical community during COVID madness. Actually, I might look that up, to tell you the truth. It's wise to pay attention to what's going on. I'm going to watch Tedros' speech, the WHO, head of the WHO. I want to know what they have planned. Yes, because they will tell you. The only part they're leaving out is we're actually doing it because we want to kill you en masse. But we just don't want to get caught. So we're going to call it, oh, it's just a disease that popped up. When it's really actually a biological weapon that was created in a lab thanks to gain-of-function research. Thank you very much. So here's the things to do. I'm also planning to plan my garden and continue planning for the future with my kids. Prepping is not about living in fear. It's about being situationally aware and doing your best with what you have so that you don't have to be afraid of whatever comes next. Okay, what do you think? Any guesses to what disease X will be or how it will begin? Are you expecting another pandemic? How do you plan to handle it this time around? Will you make changes to how you responded last time? Okay, so this is Marie Hawthorne. She writes for Activist Post. She also likes to make superb apple pie recipes. Okay, great. So here's the thing, folks. I absolutely agree with this. Just be vigilant, being situationally aware. And I've seen this in other things too, in other aspects. I've seen that with self-defense. Simply being situationally aware is like 90% of self-defense. The actions that you take, you really don't have to take much action most of the time, except in defending yourself, except being situationally aware. For example, I go visit the Midwest, I go to St. Louis. I'm going to make sure that I avoid East St. Louis because I have done some research and I know that East St. Louis is a super dangerous place. It's a hole. And so I'm going to avoid that part of town. the Illinois side. So that's the thing, is being situationally aware is that I don't sit there and go, oh, I'm going to careen into East St. Louis and I have no other choices, whatever. No, I'm just going to be aware that I'm going to avoid that. As much as I can, I'm going to avoid that. And that's just common sense. Situationally aware, if you're in a parking lot, most, a lot of crimes can happen in parking lots or like at a convenience store or whatever. Just be vigilant, be aware of your surroundings, be aware of who's around. And if you can at all possible, avoid that place or avoid those people. That's 90% of your self-defense routine. You don't have to be an expert in jujitsu, okay? If you want to, great. But anyway, so that's my spiel on that, and that's Disease X. So I'll see you next time, and let me know your thoughts. Thanks, folks. Bye.